Good afternoon from Sacred Space at Titania's Realm. It's 3:01 p.m. on the 10th of August 2025. As you can probably hear by my very deep and very rattly voice, I'm still struggling. Day 14 since I came down with this dreaded bloody lurgy. But I've been to IKEA with my handsome, talented friend Jared, and he met me after his shift had finished. And he turned up limping and writhing in agony, and I turned up huffing and puffing, feeling a bit wan. I said, I thought about cancelling. I said, but I'm sick all the time, so what else is new? We just have to soldier on and carry on as per normal, which was easier said than done because I was feeling quite fragile and out of breath and dragged my sorry ass around all of IKEA. And then I got very annoyed by the colour scheme all through IKEA and the home centre next door. Everything different shades of grey and beige, and fuck, life's ugly enough without inflicting nothing but grey and beige decor on us. So then I was fair pissed off about that. I've been pissed off about that for 5 years because they brought that ugly, putrescent, negative depression bomb, zombie apocalypse colour scheme in about 5 years ago when they unleashed COVID on our world. So I'm waiting to see when the designers and all the furniture manufacturers and the retailers get with the program and colour our lives like Andy Warhol and Pro Heart again. We're going to have an anti-beige and grey fucking revolution. So I'm calling all the artists out there, colour my world, people. Send me beautiful, vibrant colours of joy and delight, and if you want to, you can add glitter too. Let's go the whole hog. We're going to have to splatter colour across our whole nation before we all crawl into our own graves quite willingly. Head down, arse up, all guns blazing. 142nd fastest gun in the West. It's a bit like that though. It's ugly out there. The only joy I had this morning was the sunlight shining on my neighbour's tree, which defiantly against their grey facade lit up with various shades of gold and yellow light. I even took a picture of it, put it up on Facebook, just to illustrate my point, that the only joy and delight I get is when the trees light up with the sunshine. Well, at least the trees are being defiant and recognising that they need to emanate light and colour and be one with Mother Earth and nature still. It's down to the trees, people of Earth. The trees that dumb motherfuckers keep chopping down, I might add. That's why our world is dying, isn't it? It's just dying. And then I thought maybe it's just that I'm dying and I've become a bit bloody negative and doom and gloomy and whingy and whiny. And I walked around, I said, Jared, what do you think of this? I said, it's ugly, Tanya. It's not you, Tanya. It's our world now. I thank God. I thought maybe there's something that has happened to me that I'm just in a really negative, headspace. He said, no, it's everywhere. We went through all the shops. We went to Spotlight, Pillow Talk, fantastic furniture. I'm not sure why we went in there because cheap furniture grates on my nerves too. But anyway, I'm very privileged for someone who's so poor. But none of my furniture is cheap. It might be second-hand or antique or recycled or upcycled, but it's not cheap, by the gods. I think the only piece of furniture I have that was a bit cheap and nasty was my dining table that my friend's daughter gave me, but I made it look lovely by decoupaging it with all my mother's antique cards from 1973 when we were in Paris, or she was in Paris, and she went to the Louvre, so I upcycled all those beautiful postcards that I had piles of left over from that trip, So it's like something's a bit cheap and tawdry, you know, upcycle it, make it look $1 million. Make the best of what you've got. But when you're trying to buy brand new furniture in the shops and it already looks shit before you even get it home, it's like, why would you bother? Why would you bother, people of Earth? It's just ghastly. Don't mind me hacking up a lung. I've got 2 lungs. One of them will work. I shouldn't joke about that. My paedophile Uncle Trevor, it was actually my godfather. His full sister, Edna, I used to call her Auntie Edna. She smoked 2 packets a day her whole life and kept cutting out her lungs. She ended up with only 1/4 of a lung at the end. Still breathing and still smoking. I said, Auntie Edna, do you really think that's a good idea? She says, I'm dying anyway, lovey. I might as well go out with a puff of smoke and a bang. I just looked at her, I thought, some people were just bloody incorrigible. You know, just incorrigible. I was watching Roseanne Barr, you know, or Roseanne Arnold or Roseanne Barr podcast last night. And I like her. She's real and down to earth like me. She says it how it is. But she doesn't, you know, it's funny, you know, you can't see your own flaws and your own faults sometimes. So she doesn't see the cognitive dissonance that is actually quite comical. I mean, I know she's a comedian, but she really didn't see it. She's given this ad on how to have clean living and what product was she selling? It's got no chemicals and no additives and it's all pure and good for your body, and because they've got to promote this shit to keep their podcast going, because that's how they get paid. You know, unlike Muggins here, who does all this for free because the universe hates me and so does YouTube. Love you, YouTube. Thank you for preserving my truth, even though I'm borderline on defamation cases and fucking someone up the arse one way or the other, because I get aggravated by, you know, our world and what's been done to it. It's been done to me personally as well. And yes, I admit, I'm not my own best friend. I could give podcasts where I don't swear and a perfect little sweet little darling, and I make weird ads like Roseanne Barr. Anyway, she's making this ad. Can't remember what the product was now. But I just about fell off my couch laughing, because she's going on about, yeah, additive free and chemical free and good for you and pure. But she's sucking on a freaking cigarette. Anyway, I assiduously go through comment sections. It's what I do. Kill time, and curiosity killed the cat. And sometimes I glean a lot from the comment sections. She had some really nasty trolls, really quite nasty, having a go at her about selling these products that are meant to be so pristine and healthy while she's fagging on her cigarettes and killing herself with the chemicals and that, which is a valid point, a very valid point. She was that worried about putting poisons into her system. She wouldn't be smoking, would she? But, you know, smokers are a strange breed of people. They really are, because I learnt that when I was 13 from my Auntie Edna, who, with 1/4 of a lung, was still fanging on the fags and, yeah, determined to smoke until she had no lung capacity left. It's a bit odd, but it is what it is, people of Earth. Anyway, so let us continue with the story. I've had an outing today, the first time in 2 weeks, but it's nearly fucking killed me, people of Earth. At least I got a little bit of exercise shuffling around IKEA, and I had meatballs. And I'm tucking into my meatballs and my beautiful friend Jared, you know. Because it's not an outing with Jared unless he's wound me up a little bit, because it's like a little brother, you know. He's a little shit sometimes. I do love him though. So, you know, my adopted brother. So I'm tucking into these meatballs, And then he looks at me and he sweetly, and I look at him sweetly, you know, because the mamatee's happy when she's feeding herself and being nourished with physical food, even though half the time with the soreness it hasn't all that agreed with me. Oh, but anyway, I'll have something for lunch. It'll do me the power of good. So I'm tucking into these meatballs, and Jared looks at me all sweet and lovingly. Are you enjoying your horse meat? What I said? He said, they got caught years ago. They made horse meat in their meatballs. What I said? I said, look, I know I'm Jewish, but I'm well aware there's probably pork in these meatballs. I dread to think of it, but what I don't think about, I don't know, you understand. He went, yeah, well, at one time there was horse meat in it. And so then, of course, I had to go there. I said, oh, it could be worse. I said, could be other human beings. And then he just looked at me and he went, it's always on the cards, isn't it? Chopping off a finger here and there, putting it through the mincer. And then he smiles at me sweetly again and he says, could be roadkill. And then I start, the thought of roadkill. And then I laughed and I looked at him and I said, you know, there's something wrong with me, Jared. He goes, what's that? I said, I was more grossed out about the thought of eating potential roadkill than I was about the fact that there might be other human beings minced up in the food. He went, I know. He said, I noticed that. You're a bit weird, Tanya. I went, look, can I just enjoy my lunch for the love of all the gods? Pork or no pork, don't tell the rabbi. But anyway, it's very nice. I had mashed potato and peas and, you know, they're like lingonberry kind of sauce or, what do you call it? Like a kind of a jam, but, what do you call it? Anyway, like a cranberry sauce, but I think it's made with lingonberries. So it was very nice. And thank you, IKEA, for not putting human body parts or roadkill or horse meat in my meatballs. I could have ordered the plant-based one, and that way it would have been vegan and there was wouldn't have been no pork in it. But I figure, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound, or if you're gonna have IKEA meatballs, you know, you might as well just go the whole hog. You can tell I'm not religious because that's the only time I eat pork, though, is when I have IKEA Swedish meatballs. I won't let it pass my lips unless it's pepperoni on pizza. So there is that. But anyway, you will never, ever get me to eat shellfish, though. Don't even attempt it. My friend tried to sneak tarama salada on me one time. I said, what's this dip? My friend Lynn, she was all wide-eyed and sweet and innocent, had no idea, you know, in all her sweetness and innocence. She's a wonderful friend to me, really. And she goes, I don't know, I think it's some kind of tomato dip. And I went, oh, that should be nice. So I dipped the cracker into what I thought was a tomato flavoured kind of dip, or, you know, something made with red peppers or something, you know, something Greek but non-fishy. Anyway, and I put it into my mouth and I immediately got the taste of seafood. Wow, I was retching in her kitchen sink for half an hour, vomiting and vomiting. I'm so sorry, Tanya. She said, I didn't realise you'd react that way. I said, I really have an aversion to shellfish. Please don't ever do that to me again. I'm so embarrassed throwing up in your sink over a cracker and a bit of tarama salada. Even we laughed and laughed and laughed. But it kind of wasn't funny. But she learnt from that. Now she checks before she gives me anything to eat. We can't have you vomiting in the sink again, Tanya. No, we cannot. Right, on a happy note, we've gone into some very dark topics. grey and beige, vomiting, sickness, food aversions, roadkill, cannibalism. We've covered it all, haven't we, people of Earth? So on that night, it's a beautiful day and the sun is shining and we're alive and we're relatively happy and contented. Fake it till you make it. So we shall begin reading chapter 15, Big House Crew. I'm just going to spin around and check on my boy. Oh, he's back in his own cage. All right, because he went into little Beau's cage and was stalking and harassing him, but he obviously decided to return to his own sacred space. I told Jared today, I said I need a bigger house. I need a bedroom twice its the size I've got for the birds. I need a bedroom twice its size for my room. I need a bigger kitchen. I need a bigger bathroom. I need a better lounge. And he just looked at me and smiled because he knows it'll never happen. He goes, you want, Tanya. I just, it's time for an upgrade, but I'm trapped in hell. It's not going to happen. Mama T has to accept her limitations. But I've been here for 22 years, so it's understandable that I'm ready for a bit of a change, you know. If I could manifest a few $1 million, I could buy this house and land and knock it down and put a bigger house on it and a swimming pool and live happily ever after. I'm ambitious underneath all this mediocrity and dross. It's tragique. Très, très tragique. Le pauvre madame, sans merci. Voulez-vous? No, don't go there, girlfriend. There will be no couching avec moi ce soir or any other soir. I'm not going to sell myself out for a bigger house. I'll stand on my dignity and my principles and remain poor for the rest of my life. Smallest violin. Doom, 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 doom. Right, let's carry on with the story. Guys that don't have anybody are preyed upon a lot. Indeed, they are, and not just guys, but women too. If they think you're a loner and on your own, every motherfucker thinks you're ready to just be picked off. Then they meet me. And they find out. Picked on the wrong one, low-life scum dog cur. I've been a loner all my life, even in childhood. That's how I survived. By the gods. Right, Lorne Campbell on prison life. So in that case, yeah, you really do need to surround yourself with some very tough, very protective, very supportive friends. If you're in prison and you're on your own, it's a very vulnerable position to be in, I would imagine. But anyhow, it's not unusual for prisoners to shake or even break down and blubber like babies by the time they're fingerprinted at Millhaven Super Maximum Security Penitentiary. By this time, a prisoner has likely ridden for hours on a bus with his hands cuffed together and his legs shackled to the floor. He has already passed along treeless lawns, through 2 9-metre chain-link fences, each topped and linked in razor and barbed wire, and a metre-high warning fence that marks the outer limit of how far prisoners can walk from the exercise yard before deadly force can be used to stop them. He has also passed under guard towers, and if he looked up, he may have seen guards staring down at him, gripping machine guns. Once he has been escorted into the mesh-lined holding cell where he's fingerprinted. I wonder why it's mesh-lined. The prisoner has become an unwilling member of a community comprising 525 of Canada's meanest, most dysfunctional men. Odds are, even if he was once the toughest kid in the class, he's not even close to the most feared convict on his new range. Millhaven, also known as Thrill Haven, was Canada's highest security prison, and a third of the inmates were serving life terms when Campbell arrived. Just check on my boy. It's a lot of scuffling going on. Scuffle, scuffle, scuffle. Scuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Yeah, what you doing, boy chick? Oh, are you? No, you're not on your swing. Are you the handsome boy? Are you? I would have put you outside now, but it's going to rain. And apparently it's going to rain for the next few days, Jared informs me. So that sucks, big hairy green feather turds. My turds aren't hairy, Mama D. No, they're not, are they? Right, where were we? Some locals and inmates believed it was built on a native burial ground, making it forever cursed. Oh, that'd be right. Add to all the misery that's already there, having those dark energies of a cursed burial ground. Especially if you're a bit vulnerable and a bit sensitive, and you can fend off, the other prisoners, but it's a bit hard to fend off the spirits when they're angry with you. By the gods. My beautiful Kermie. Right, I'm sorry, I got to focus, I know. The prison itself certainly had a nasty birth. It opened prematurely in 1971 to accommodate prisoners from nearby Kingston Penitentiary, which required an extensive clean-up after a bloody 4-day riot that year. When he was there in 1972, Bernie Guindon saw a prisoner lead another inmate across the weight room, stop and pull out a hidden shank, an improvised knife. It was so smooth and seemingly effortless that it looked somehow choreographed, and it just took seconds for the shank to be thrust into the inmate's chest 12 times. I went, wow, quick. It's just like watching television. They really are kind of detached from reality, aren't they? It's probably all the psych meds they put them on as well. Guindon saw another inmate get shanked. Getting shanked means you're being stabbed with a makeshift knife in the exercise yard after demanding pharmaceuticals from fellow prisoners. That attacker also led his prey to a spot where he had hidden a shank. "Are you going to help?" an inmate asked. "No, he can die," Guindon replied. He was stealing pills. Life's cheap, isn't it? Yep, you hang out with trash, then your life becomes ever more cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. got to upgrade your life and colour your life and psychedelic dream your life without the drugs, people of Earth. You got to paint your life beautiful colours. You got to spend time with beautiful people who truly value, see you, cherish and appreciate you. And only then will your life become somewhat sanguine and serene and peaceful and lovely too. You get out of life what you put in, and you are the 5 people you associate with most of the time. It's a harsh rule, but it's a true one. Right, ask me how I know. Ask me how I know. Right. Pink frilly knickered buckle riding bully boys. It's just embarrassing, isn't it? Just taking up space on planet Earth. Fucking losers they were. But anyway, I was a loser too, because I went along with all of that thinking it was love. Jesus. Not Jesus, because, you know, you understand. It's just an old habit. Hangover from when I once was a good little Lutheran girl, when I still believed that certain energies and entities might actually come and protect the little children. Boy, was I wrong about that. Banked on the wrong one there, literally. But don't get me started about the endemic child sexual abuse that happens in Jewish families as well. It's right across the board. It's an evil that's right across every country, every religion, every society. It's an evil that needs to be rooted out and prevented from ever happening again. But there's too many bloody enablers. They even put it in their voiceovers. They think it's cool, you know, to traumatise sweet, innocent little children. Well, it's not cool. It never will be cool. And if you're that kind of person, you're a psychopath, I don't want you anywhere near me or mine for that matter. Anyway, it is what it is, people of Earth. Like all new arrivals, Campbell first went to the assessment centre in E Unit. He was slated for psychological and IQ testing and an audience with Dr. George Ducolin Scott. I wonder if he had a neck. So I had to go there. Rocky Horror Picture Show reference. A jaunty, charismatic, terrier-like little man, Scott had the all-knowing air of someone who had borne witness at least once to almost every form of human depravity. He once told the Ottawa Citizen that he was fascinated as a boy growing up in Kingston by what he imagined lay inside the stone walls of the Kingston prison for women, which loomed within eyeshot of his childhood home. Somehow, the sight of the prison stirred a deeper part of my soul and tantalized him with a sense of mystery. Like running into the sun, you can't see what's there. Can't quite see what's there, it says. Why would you be obsessed with a women's prison? That's disturbing in its own merits right there. Mama T's not liking that picture. Anywho, the doctor was in his early 70s when Campbell walked into his office, and by that time Scott had peered inside the minds of tens of thousands of prisoners. He hadn't just asked them questions from across a desk either. He had overseen LSD experimentation on prisoners funded by the Canadian Department of National Defence. That was a fuckery and a half. As well as testing on the effects of shock therapy, sensory deprivation, and pain tolerance. You can read between the lines. Testing prisoners on various forms of torture, which I'm quite sure would be against the Geneva Convention, but is there a Geneva Convention for prisoners? It's very, very hard to tell. I'm sure there is some kind of basic human rights, but that all got flouted, did it not? And someone just mentioned Guantanamo Bay, for example. But it goes on right across the world, goes on here too. Australia, mate, Australia, the not so lucky country for some. Oh, what's that birdie doing? What are you ripping apart? You're back in Bo's cage. Where's little Bo? Sitting on the floor chewing the piece of wood I've got in there. Alright, well, you're obviously all content, so that's fine. Carry on, nothing to see here. Let's close the blind a bit. Put the light on. Are you happy your mother's home? Are you chewing that right up, little Bo? Oh, that'll keep you out of trouble. Sharpening his beak to bite the mama tea, isn't he? He's been working at it. That thing will be a deadly weapon by now. He's been working at it for months. Anyway. When the press caught wind of this in the 1990s, he dismissed suggestions that such experimentation reduced patients to the status of mere guinea pigs. It's a lot of bullshit, Scott told the Ottawa Citizen. It was good research back then. No, it was actually, a captive fucking audience. That's what it really was. But, they're animals, some of these scientists. It was good research back then. It was good research with good motivation, with good supervision. And the government supplied the bucks for the whole thing. Even the way he speaks is just so arrogant and obnoxious. That man really should have no neck. Mama T has spoken. I don't like people taking advantage of people who are captured and trapped and at your fucking mercy. I don't like it. It's not cool. Human rights right across the board, from cradle to grave. It's how it should be. Mama T has spoken. Pressed another time by the newspaper, he was even more to the point. I'm happy with myself. I don't give a shit. No, he doesn't, does he? Animal. Reminds me of that local Labour MP that had the nerve to come to my gate. I said, get away from my property. Oh, isn't it Housing Commission? Oh, it's still my home. Get away from my front gate, you vermin. Oh, what do you mean? Oh, he genocided my entire species. Oh, I made plenty of money, he said, skipping down the street like a schoolboy. Vermin it is. They live and breathe amongst us. And you dumb mofos, vote for them. Even worse, you voted for that vermin to make plenty of money over my stolen progeny and the adverse reactions and, the sudden adult deaths and the infertilities and the late-term fucking miscarriages and, fuck it all. Seriously. But this is their attitude. I don't give a shit. They really don't. This is why our world is grey and beige. Unfortunately for the doctor, some people in power did give a shit. That's something, isn't it? A dozen years after he met Campbell, Scott was stripped of his licence to practice medicine for testing of a profoundly lurid sort, using sodium pentothal and electroshock to drop female patients into an almost comatose state. Then he would implant sexual suggestions and revive them with Ritalin. He's a fucking animal is what he is. A fucking animal. But not a cute little animal that you want to pet, keep on your lap and look after and feed for its entire lifespan. Roadkill is what he is. But when Campbell met Scott that day in his office, the doctor still displayed the easy confidence of a man who enjoyed a secure, fascinating job for life, since there was little chance of prisoners shutting down due to an outbreak of lawfulness. I think he means lawlessness. Because if they were all lawful, they wouldn't need to shut the prison down, would they? Oh, he's being sarcastic. Sorry, I have to rewind there. Sarcasm, people there. Every day, I'm getting het up about medical experiments on prisoners. Every day, it's because of my history, you know. My parents survived in concentration camp. When COVID came, all I could think of, Dr. Mengele. It was in my head every day. Remember Dr. Mengele. Remember how they took early on in the final solution, they took the Jews and they put them into vans and they injected them. This was before they started with the gas chambers, you understand, and completely industrialised death. Nurses would take Jews, Roma, gypsies, LGBTIQ, dissenters, pacifists, in a quiet little van with a quiet little injection. They would go in, they wouldn't come out. Facts, people of Earth. It's how it all started. Doctors and nurses. That's why I trust no one with my body. No man, no woman, no child. And no God either, because even gods can be a bit fast and loose with female mortal flesh. Just saying. If you don't know what I'm talking about, make a study of Greek and Roman mythology. But when Campbell met Scott that day in his office, the doctor still displayed the... Oh, we read that. Start again. Rewind. Every day he would take a close-up view of varying degrees of deviance, could take a close-up view, and then stroll out again to have a quiet supper with his family in the comfort of his century-old hobby farm. He took things in stride, like he was a movie star, Campbell says. Sounds very similar to Dr. Mengele too, holding all that power over life and death. Go to the right, go to the left. Can't remember if it was to the right that went straight to the gas chamber or to the left. But one was life as slave labour in Auschwitz or whatever camp you landed in, and the other was the gas chamber. It's dark, isn't it? But if you don't understand your history, then you're not prepared when they unleash the next onslaught. And trust me, COVID was just the tip of the iceberg. They got away with it. It was so easy. so easy. Skipping down the road, I made a lot of money. I hope karma catches up with that man one day. I hope he skips down the road to the wrong person. That's all I have to say about that. Sooner or later, it'll come to him. Life is long, and the gods never forget those who violate natural law. That man cost me my progeny and the health of my close friends and my daughters. Given his decades of experience, perhaps it wasn't surprising that Scott seemed a little blasé as he scanned Campbell's lengthy rap sheet of assaults and other bikerish misdeeds. "What are you here for?" the doctor asked. Campbell was sure he must already know, but he answered anyway. "Do you have any remorse for beating a man with a hammer?" "Actually, no. He deserved what he got." Campbell's reply didn't seem to faze Scott even a bit. Finally, the doctor looked up and said, "You're all right." I'll never forget him saying, "You're all right," after I was telling him about beating a guy with a hammer and selling dynamite, Campbell says. Dr. Scott dropped his head again, the cue for Campbell to leave. With that, Campbell was dispatched to A unit, where he would spend half of each day in a cell measuring 3 metres by 2.1 metres. The other half of his new life was to be spent outside his cell, alongside inmates who were often happy, or at least indifferent, at the thought of slitting his throat. The only other biker in A unit was Ken Logan of the Lobos Motorcycle Club in Windsor. Logan ran a sports betting enterprise in which the payoff was money and cigarettes. Oh, craving for chocolate, by the gods. No, Mama T, control your cravings. The rest of the penitentiary's bikers, including Rick Sauvé and Gary Nutty Camo, were in J Unit, Millhaven's other general population wing. They were all classified as part of the Big House crew by their clubs, the biker term for members behind prison bars. None of the bikers in the prison were from the hated Outlaws. Less than 12 hours after he arrived on the range, Campbell stood in the gymnasium with John Dunbar, also of the Lobos. Lobos? Lobos. 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 Loco Lobos? Lobos means wolf, doesn't it? In Mexican or Spanish. Los Lobos, I think. Los Lobos? Masculine or feminine? Oh well, someone in my audience is screaming, laughing at me, struggling with just one Spanish word. Anyway, Dunbar was a smallish, trim man whose appearance belied the enormity of his crime. He and fellow Lobo, Ken Logan, had gone into a house to kill a former Lobos president after a drug beef, and ended up also murdering another man and a woman when they showed up unexpectedly. Campbell and Dunbar had never met before, but as outlaw bikers, they naturally gravitated to each other. It was a little after 9 in the morning when Campbell and Dunbar watched as an inmate picked up a baseball bat and walked briskly towards them. "Stand here, Lorne," Dunbar said, and Campbell obeyed. Seconds later, the man with the bat clubbed Michel Lafleur, a member of the Front de Libération du Québec, to death. Lafleur was 33, and he had been behind bars for 14 years, sentenced to a term of more than 41 years for an assortment of crimes relating to the Quebec separatist group, including armed robbery and discharging a firearm with intent to kill. His role with the FLQ was to raise money through robbery, and he was already an inmate when fellow terrorists kidnapped Quebec Labour Minister Pierre Laporte and British diplomat James Cross, eventually murdering Laporte. Lafleur's murder was never solved, as no one in the gymnasium spoke with investigators, but it's doubtful there were any great political undertones to his death that morning in the exercise yard. Killings at Millhaven often happened for reasons that would seem petty to outsiders, but which had a peculiar logic to someone inside the prison. "I was amazed that it happened so fast," Campbell says. "I heard he was a good guy. I never talked to him. I saw him a few minutes, and then he was dead." "Within 6 months you'll have a sixth sense," Dunbar told him, describing a heightened awareness akin to how birds know to hightail it before a storm. "You'll know when something's going to go down," Dunbar continued. "It's a feeling, so you just clear out." As Campbell settled in, he thought about something Mike Everett had said when he dropped by to see Campbell, alluding to a potential threat. Everett had said something cryptic to the effect of, "If you're classified for Millhaven, you have a problem with somebody there." He declined to expand, leaving the impression it was an inter-club problem in which he couldn't take sides. Just going to pop the heater on, people of Earth. So. It's getting a bit chilly in here. Chilly, my darlings. Chilly. Right. Oh, my goodness. What you looking at me like that, Kermie? You was a good boy, isn't you? Are you being kind to the bow? Just turn that right up, crank it right up. Let's have a hot room. You're handsome. You're so pretty. Yes, you are. And you're handsome and pretty too. I love you. I love you. Who loves Mummy? Neither of you. Nobody loves the mama tea. But I'm okay with it. Most of the time. There was a barbecue at the prison during Campbell's first week there, one of 4 held each year. It gave him a chance to look into Everett's warning, and so he walked up to Sauvé. I saw him and Nutty for the first time in 5 years. They had been in jail for 5 years. Campbell had always confronted beefs head on, and that's what he planned to do right now. I asked Rick and Nutty in the first half hour, "Who in this prison has a beef with me? They didn't know. If anybody had a beef with me in Millhaven, they would have known about it. Sauvé and Nutty talked about it between themselves later in the day. Now I've got a craving for some Sauvignon wine. It's because of the Sauvé name. I'm very suggestible. Did somebody mention sex? I'm joking about the sex. I'm not that suggestible. By the gods. Chocolate, however. Chocolate. I guess I could make a nice hot chocolate later. It'll sit nicely on my chest and soothe the mama cheese soul babies. So there is that. I wore this out today, even though I haven't soldered on each charm, and I was a bit worried that I might lose some, but I didn't, thankfully. So it's all good. Got lots of smiles from little girls aged about 7 or 8 walking past. Oh, I know why. They would have liked the little dollies. Ah, that's what they were smiling at. Yes. Sweet little girls anyway. The next day, Sauvé told Campbell that they still didn't know of any real beef against him. Perhaps Everett was mistakenly referring to an old and false story that had circulated during the trial. There had been an unfounded rumour started by one of the Port Hope 8's lawyers that Campbell had balked at the prospect of pleading guilty to the Bill Matiak shooting. It wasn't true, but it was as dangerous as a shank to the ribs. Perhaps that's why Everett was so cryptic. Pardon me. He felt he was caught in a beef between brothers. Whatever the case, things were fine now. That was the rumour, Campbell says. They had found out the truth long before I got there, but it was never discussed again. There wasn't a beef. Over time, Campbell learned there were shanks hidden throughout Millhaven. They were made out of anything that could be sharpened enough to cut into a human body, with pieces of metal from the machine shop, toothbrushes and hobby craft tools, all fashioned into instruments of death and protection. The nicest and largest shank I ever seen belonged to my close friend John Dunbar, Campbell recalls. He had it machined to be part of his window frame, so it was not detected during the frequent cell searches. Clever, but evil, but clever. Credit where it's due. Dunbar called it Excalibur, and he sometimes smuggled it from his cell by dropping it into his pant leg. It was a beautiful piece of craftsmanship, Campbell says. After work hours, the odd day, John would retrieve it from his cell, and before the doors closed for the count, he would come to my cell and start swinging it within inches of my face while I was lying on my bed. As calmly as I could, I would ask, "Is this John or the other guy?" This was insinuating that he had a split personality. Both men found this a fine example of jailhouse humour. Even for a tough and relatively grounded inmate, Millhaven was a hard place to endure day in and day out, 24 hours a day. Inmates sometimes took a break by going fishing for seagulls. They'd put little bits of food on safety pins so a gull might swoop down and grab it. The payoff came when the gull reached the end of the line and its guts were suddenly ripped out. Oh, that's just awful, isn't it? Just vermin. Really. I hate people who are cruel to animals. Cruelty to children and cruelty to animals is just fucking unacceptable. That's the most humane thing that happened in Millhaven, Campbell says. He once watched as 2 inmates were shot by guards as they tried to scale the inner fence. It was like live theatre as the shotgun pellets hit them and they were tumbling downwards, seemingly in slow motion. It was like spiders falling, Campbell recalls. A voice came over the loudspeakers. Clear the yard. One of the inmates who'd been hit wasn't about to give himself up and face charges for attempting to escape. So he ran back inside with the crowd. He threw his coat down, Campbell says. Somebody else gave him another coat. Once back in his cell, another prisoner treated his buckshot wounds. It was simple enough for guards to figure out what had happened, but they didn't press the matter. They asked if he wanted to be treated. He said no. He didn't admit to it and was never charged. That was Millhaven. Campbell didn't play hockey as a kid, but he was recruited as an assistant coach of a Millhaven inmates team anyway. He was replacing Nutty Como, who seemed on the verge of getting maimed or murdered by the Green Team's other coach, Gary Barnes, who was also a player. This guy would eat Nutty, Campbell says. I was asked to be coach in case he tried something. As expected, things got ugly in a hurry. Behind the Green Team's bench, Campbell turned to Barnes and said, I'm not nutty, so go for it. What might have happened next could have taken hockey violence to a new low. I had a skate in my hands. I was going to cut his throat. He still had his skates on. He could just kick me. He just wouldn't go. Finally, Barnes eased up, saying, fuck it, I'll go to the Red Team. The Green Team was a formidable bunch in the corners, and none of its players was more feared than its clean-cut defence man, John Drummond. He only weighed about 170 pounds and looked like a schoolteacher, but folks who knew him considered him a truly dangerous man, even for Millhaven. Some 100 inmates routinely gathered around the boards to watch games, and during one shift, when Drummond was on the ice, a voice from the spectator section screamed out, "Kill the son of a bitch." May surprise habitués of mainstream hockey games, but there were unwritten rules about what you just didn't do at a Millhaven shinny game, where a large percentage of the players were convicted killers. Hollering, "Kill the son of a bitch" was one of those things. You don't scream that to a rink full of lifers, of killers, Campbell says. You don't yell, "Kill him," in Millhaven. The words hit Drummond like a hard slash across his back. Everyone went silent as he immediately skated to the boards and surveyed the spectators with cold eyes. Who the fuck said that? The moment couldn't have been more serious. The prisoners watching the game couldn't have gone more silent. It was a long time and mate who finally dared to reply. It's a guy who don't know better. I'll talk with him later. It's a fish, a new guy. Drummond was still fuming as he skated away. When the game was over, Drummond's mood wasn't any better. Me and so-and-so are coming out tomorrow, and we're bringing steel. The first guy that says anything is getting it. Assistant coach Campbell found himself in the unaccustomed role of peacekeeper. It's an expression, Campbell said to Drummond. There ain't nobody going to die. People who weren't familiar with prison hockey might have been surprised by the scarcity of fighting in the games. Things in Millhaven were too hardcore for the kind of brawling typical of how the game is often played in the free world. If violence anywhere in the prison were allowed to gradually escalate, people were killed. In Millhaven, you don't often see a fight, Campbell says. If there's a beef, somebody's died. There were no disputes among Green team members or coaches that resulted in murders, which was a victory of sorts. On the ice, success was more modest. In the 3-team league, the Greens settled for bronze. Just want to check out what my little boy chick's doing. What you doing, little chickie boy? Chicky boy. Got bright sunshine shining on you. You is a happy bird. What's the other little munchkin doing? Sitting up there all very quietly. Being a good little birdie num-num. Is that home? Am I looking at home? Huh. No. He's over here. He's over here, and I thought he was there. Perspective is everything, people of Earth. Right. Well, anyway. Christmas in Millhaven saw 3 drag queens. Yes, I know that was disgusting, I admit. Just randomly happened, people of Earth. I can't edit out my videos. You get the good, the bad and the ugly. I don't know how to edit. I wish I did. There's a lot of things I could edit out. But you're getting it raw and authentic and as real as can be on my channel. Christmas in Millhaven saw 3 drag queens in Campbell's unit slash themselves. These weren't superficial slashes intended only to gain attention. They were deep, dangerous, potentially fatal cuts, which meant the 3 queens were carried from the unit on stretchers. Campbell and Sauvé found themselves speculating about how it had happened. Did the drag queens decide on a particular order of who would be slashed first, second and third? Did one do it and the others thought it was a good idea and joined in? Campbell couldn't help but smile as he ran over his alternate theories with Sauvé, surprised that he could be so glib about something so grim, involving people who had never done anything to hurt him. Was it possible that prison was making him an even harder man? We're not that fucking cruel, me and Rick. Campbell had been behind bars plenty of times, but this was super maximum security, and he was still a newcomer. There were plenty of things to absorb. He learned that he needed to be constantly on guard, especially in the mornings. The craziest, angriest inmates often stew about grievances all night. And by daybreak, they're in a murderous rage. Kind of get that. Mama T's a bit of a ruminator too. Ready to bolt out of their cells to avenge some perceived slight that others have often forgotten. You're on point as soon as your cell doors open, Campbell says. Almost all murders there happen when the doors open. Even if you had only 2 hours sleep, you're on point when the door opens if you had any sense about you. Campbell learned it was a dangerous thing to say hello to someone for 10 consecutive mornings and then forget to do so on the 11th. This could well be taken as a slight which must be avenged with violence. He learned that a 120-pound man can kill you just as dead as a 300-pounder with a shank to your heart. Sometimes that 120-pound man will be more prone to using that shank than a bigger man, since he can't handle himself with his fists. Campbell learned to walk with his eyes straight ahead and look slightly downwards and never peer into an open cell. Peeking into a prisoner's cell and catching him choking the chicken potentially invites a death sentence. Honestly, it's a bit extreme, isn't it? Because what else are they going to do but choke their fucking chickens? Anyway, I guess it's just a matter of personal dignity and pride. Do it in the dark when no one's around to see you. Oh, it's not rocket science, is it? Dear Goddess. Campbell recalls how one inmate warned another to control his wandering eyes. "Don't look in my cell," he ordered. The lesson didn't sink in. The next time the offending inmate looked into the cell, he witnessed a shank being rammed into his own heart. Guess they take it fairly seriously after all. I wouldn't do well in prison. I'm too obstreperous and defiant. I'd be telling them all to fuck off. I'd be dead within half an hour. On the other hand, they'd probably like me for being obstreperous and defiant, giving me a bit of leeway. Might even look after me a bit. No, that's a fantasy. I'd be a dead woman walking from the moment I walked in there. I'd have both prison guards and prisoners out to get me. It's just been like that my whole life, people of Earth. Every time I thought I had someone loving and kind that had my back, it's all sweetness and light for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then bing, bam, boom, baby, I fall out of favour. Why? My addiction to speaking the truth. Can't handle the truth? Don't come anywhere near Mama T. Don't even sniff near me. Tosses. Anyway, it is what it is, people of Earth. 60 years on the planet. The best they could do was sabotage my birthday. Mock and deride me at public gigs. Wow, that motherfucker. Consider yourself. No, I'll rein it in. He was getting a little bit too obsessed with me, you understand. He knew it, I knew it, and everyone on Instagram knew it. So he got pulled in. He got pulled into line by someone, and they thought it was funny to humiliate me while they pulled him back into line. The truth is the truth, no matter what, no matter who. Anywho, a man of couth and courage would have stood by me no matter what, no matter who. Lost respect for him that day. When Mama T loses respect for you, you'll never get it back again. Bing, bang, boom, baby. Anyway, it is what it is. Campbell learned that you do your time without complaining. Whining about a 5-year term to someone serving life with no eligibility for parole for 25 years comes across as taunting, and taunting invites a violent response. You also don't ask anyone why they're in prison. They can tell you if they want, but there's a good chance you don't want to hear anyway. It's doing your own time, Campbell says. It's just none of your business. I get that. I do. Once he did venture to ask an inmate if he had any regrets about stabbing his wife 17 times. Would you change anything? Campbell asked. No, she was a fucking stool pigeon. I would do it all over again. She deserved every stab. With that, the conversation ended. Campbell didn't want to hear another word about it. Rather than pepper a prisoner with questions or random observations, Campbell understood that it was generally best simply to shut up. Mama T never shuts up. She will never be silenced, and she will never, ever, ever cede, yield or quit on her basic human rights and her right to party and dance and be joyous and happy. With harm to none, so it is done. Lived like that all my life, haven't I, people of Earth? Some of you know what I've been put through over the years by malfeasant, lacklustre curs. If they were in the jail system, they would have been shanked for what they did to me. Trust me on that one. Tossers is what they are. Anyway, at the end of the day, nothing really matters. Life goes on until it doesn't. And look at the beautiful bird reflecting all his glory, all his green glory in the slowly descending sunshine. It's a beautiful bird. And Mama T's very sick, but beautiful in her festy old lady ways. And life goes on. And somewhere out there in the world is a real man with real heart and real soul who chooses me each and every time and will treat me like a queen with honour and respect, not just in my presence, but behind my back as well. He won't be sending any floozies, shoving them in my face like all the former lovers and wannabe lovers did, because they have no class and no couth. He'll be standing beside me with pride and dignity and courage and decency, and he'll be a truly good man. It's a nice little fantasy, isn't it, I've got going on. As I say, probably have to wait for the next dimension for that. Haven't found a decent man in this one. By the gods. It's astonishing when you think about it, especially in the circles I ran in, surrounded by lots and lots of men. Not one could take me on. Not one. Well, we won't cry over that. We'll just handle it, babies. Handle it. But I had a lovely time with my friend and brother Jared today. I wish I wasn't so unwell, so I could have, you know, gone other places and suggested that we go elsewhere as well. But he was tired, he'd worked all day, and I was ill. And it's like the blind leading the blind, really. Neither of us. I mean, he's younger than me. He's 6 years younger than me, but, you know, we're all basically senior citizens now, by the gods. Right, where was I? Staying young and beautiful in my fantasy world in Titania's realm. Honestly. With that, the conversation ended. Campbell didn't want to hear another word about it. Rather than pepper a prisoner with questions or random observations, Campbell understood that it was generally best simply to shut up. Prisoners were often one sharp glance or one clumsy word away from exploding. Campbell often felt like blowing up too, especially when he got the sense that someone figured his prison time was somehow easy because he didn't whine. They'd think this was rolling off my back, Campbell says, that it was not affecting me. Listen, I was doing every fucking minute. Think this doesn't bother me? That I don't have a life? That you're the only one that doesn't deserve to be in here? Go fuck yourself. In prison, crazy was normal. A convict from the United States one day volunteered to Campbell why he was behind bars. Until that time, Campbell had known him primarily as a guy who was good at making wooden flower pots, a pleasant enough way to pass the hours. Deciding to unburden himself, the flower pot man told Campbell how he came home one day and caught his wife with another man. Oh yeah? Campbell replied, not really wanting to know the details. She came after me with a pistol. Oh, yeah? I tried to get it from her and then it went off and then the trigger guard got stuck on my hand. He gesticulated wildly, trying to demonstrate how easy it was for a hand to get stuck in a pistol and how the stream of bullets that filled the air and ended the life of his cheating wife was a horrible but totally understandable accident that could have happened to anyone. At this point, Campbell couldn't control his laughter. At first, he had thought the flower pot man just had a dry sense of humour. When he realised he was deadly serious, somehow it got even funnier. Tell me that, but don't tell a judge, Campbell advised, leaving without a flower pot. Campbell was on the incline bench in the gym not long after his arrival at Millhaven when he got chatting with a prisoner from the Kitchener area. The prisoner, whom Campbell calls Beau, little Beau, began explaining how his partner in the drug world was ratting on him, so he tricked his partner into believing he had a deal for them. They drove out into a wooded area and he directed his partner to walk ahead of him as he took his hunting bow out of his car's trunk. Campbell recalls, as he was telling me all of this, oh, dear goddess. As he was telling me all of this, he was getting angrier by the minute, calling his partner a stool pigeon. Beau was soon totally lost in the moment of the murder. I shot him in the back with the arrow, and the fucker didn't die. So I had to run over with my knife and stab him till he died. That motherfucker, that cock-sucking rat, he deserved to die. Campbell feigned outrage too and looked for the next possible exit from the conversation. Then Beau abruptly halted his rant. Do you know how they got me? No. So he proceeded to tell me, Campbell says. He cut off his partner's head and buried it. His reasoning was that the bugs would eat away the flesh and he would be able to take the skull home and use it for an ashtray. I'm thinking, of course, why didn't I think of that? He kept going back to check on the skull and, wouldn't you know it, the police had him under their radar and the bastards followed him one day. Ain't life a bitch? I gotta go back to my cell, Campbell told Beau. I had to tell the guy to get the fuck away from me a few times after that before he got the hint, says Campbell. Campbell learned that inmates are safer with the right friends. Guys that don't have anybody are preyed upon a lot. That said, it's often better to stick to yourself rather than get involved with just anyone, since you'll inherit all of your new friends' enemies. Anyone suspected of being an informant or a sexual offender or someone who'd been convicted of crimes against children was a prime target for a shank in the exercise room. So was anyone who looked like a friend to a diddler or a rat. There is a theory that convicts are so tough on sex criminals because they feel powerless to protect their own families on the outside from people like that. Whatever the reasons, rats and diddlers were forever targeted. Campbell's advice to a newbie inmate was simple. Just stay to yourself and do your own time. Don't get involved with groups. If you do, see what they're up to. Some inmates, such as a bodybuilder named Nick Nero, grated on Campbell's nerves because they acted somehow surprised and offended to be behind bars. He was a wimpy motherfucker, Campbell says. I liked Robert Blake's line from the 1970s TV show, Baretta. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime. You're a fucking drug dealer. Suck it up, shut up, and do your fucking time. Sometimes there's just something about a prisoner that creeps others out. It's hard to define why they give off this vibe, but the creepiness is palpable. Any association with someone like that can be dangerous. Nutty Kamo couldn't abide the sight of a glue sniffer who sat down next to Campbell at an inmate's baseball game. Prisoners could easily get glue to sniff from woodwork or leathercraft hobbywork, and when they did, they became a menace, or at best, annoying. Lorne, don't be fucking talking to that guy, Natty cautioned. At first, Campbell had no problems chatting with the man. Then Campbell saw what Natty meant when the man began babbling in verbal circles one day, making no sense to anyone but himself. That's when Campbell decided that Nutty, for all his own issues, was right. The guy's nuts, a glue sniffer. Anybody that's on downers, glue sniffers, too fucked up when they do something, we'd stay away from in jail. He was too screwed up to hang around with. If you're sniffing glue, it's glue in your brain cells or something. Keeping the company of glue sniffers was hardly on the same level as being friendly with a diddler, but Campbell quickly learned that seemingly little things in Millhaven could bring major and irreversible penalties. Bad personal hygiene was often enough for an attack. I hear you on that one. The stink! People used to turn up to the casino when I danced there for 12 years, not wash their genitals after they'd had sex. You know, that particular stench of stale, leftover, crusty sex. And that was the females. Or they'd turn up on their period, hadn't washed downstairs, you know. It's hot in summer in Brisbane. It gets to 45 degrees. And they'd strut in there and they'd march across the dance floor. They'd get near me and my friend Karen. Karen had a very sensitive bouquet of nose. Could smell them from across the floor. Would immediately start dry retching. Knock it off, Karen. For the love of all the gods. I can't smell anything. You will. You will. Anyway, the dirty motherfucker would get near me inside. They'd always come up to us for some reason, almost as if it was like they just had to, just to watch us put on a turn. But our turns were genuine. They really did stink that badly. And so they'd get near me, and then I'd catch a whiff, and then I'd be, but I'd be really vomiting because, you know, I told you, shellfish sets me off, am I right? So I'd be, and we'd both be heaving. And Karen would look at me and she'd go, I don't know why it took you so long. I smelt them from the moment they walked into the club. Oh God, I know. You're my early warning system. I was trying to tune it out. I was hoping it wouldn't be so bad. It was bad, Tanya. If I smell it from across the room, it's fucking bad. Oh, the amount of people that we wished we could just murder then and there for their stench was beyond foul. Beyond foul. And the people that had BO from under the armpits, equally revolting. It's like, I felt like saying to management, can you just supply fucking built-in frickin' deodorant in the toilets or something, or just spray them as they walk in. It was just filthy. It really was filthy what we used to endure. Dancing to the bands, one of the creatures, I won't name it, creature, had untreated chlamydia for years it went on. The stench was abominable, and it would cock its leg up on the stage, and the guys in the band, I won't say which band, but the tears would be running down their eyes, and they'd look at me, Mama T, can you say something, please? We're men, we can't say anything to her, be offensive. I said, how am I going to say anything? I'm a woman and it's offensive. And they went, but there's nothing more offensive than the stink coming out from her loins. I went, I hear you, brother. They went, we're getting it full frontal when she lifts the leg up. It's just like flames flying up to us on the stage. I felt sorry for them. I did. I took her aside. I tried to very delicately explain that she needed to do something about her vaginosis or whatever she had going on. She thought I was being a bully and being mean. I was deadly serious. Anyway, it went on for years. And then I would just see, I'd walk out there. I'm not going to be subjected to that stink. Foul it was. Foul, beyond foul. And it was so foul that even the men were begging me, please, can you do something? I don't own her vagina. It's her problem. She needs to wash her mutt before she goes dancing. And if she's got a problem after she's washed before she went out, she needs to take some, you can buy special wipes for washing down there and keep it in a handbag and go in the loo and have another little, douche for the poosh. But no, animal it was. Animal. Filthy it was. Oh my goddess. Why are we talking about this? Oh yes, personal hygiene. Wow. You see, in the jail, they just would have killed the bitch. it would have been the end of that. No more stinking up there in a little tiny, what was it? 3.1 by 2 point something environment. Whew. I hate that, dirty, stinking people who don't wash. I do. There's no need for it, especially in the summer heat that we get here. I mean, it's intense. It's intense in summer. You can go out all nice and clean and fresh, and even I used to get a bit, you know, on the turn, a bit smelly by the end of the night after dancing for 4 or 5 hours. But I would do the decent thing, go to the ladies and have a little bit of a top and a tail, you understand, under the pits. It's nothing worse than stinking from your nether regions. Nothing worse, people of Earth. It's just bloody putrid. Putrid. Right, on a happy note, let's carry on with the story. So was a sloppy cell. Yes, I've noticed that about bikies. They like to have everything very clean and tidy, almost to the point of having OCD or ADHD, or, well, a lot of them have done a lot of drugs, you understand. But anyway, they like things to be pristine. Potential capital crimes behind bars also included stiffing someone on a gambling debt, failing to deliver drugs as promised, and theft. For the weaker inmates, it could be dangerous to snub sexual advances. Ouch. And sometimes prisoners saw their time behind bars as an opportunity, to avenge grudges from the outside. Campbell was repeatedly reminded that it was often best just to keep his thoughts to himself. Prison drag queens weren't preyed upon or goaded as they fashioned halter tops from boxer shorts and makeup from ash and food colouring. There was just nothing to gain in hassling them and provoking confrontations. One drag queen, who was given a particularly wide berth by the other inmates, was a solidly built 6'5" former army sergeant. Funny. Underneath the makeup and the woman's clothing, he still had a soldier's strength and skills. He also had a chilling reputation, having landed in prison for stabbing his mother to death. Her crime was to call him a faggot. Yes, handsome boy. Yes, you're a beautiful boy. Charmaine dropped by for visits religiously, reminding Campbell of the life that awaited him once his time was served. She visited every week, rain or shine, Campbell says. Bad weather or good, she was there. Scrub turkeys running up the hill. Looks like the road runner from that cartoon. Campbell had been running his stripper agency with Joe Napolitano when he was sent to prison, and Charmaine continued working as a dancer. Campbell was alarmed one day to hear that she was working at a bar in Windsor run by the Outlaws. It was easy to imagine them doing something terrible to her just to punish him. I said, just go to the owner and get your pay. Don't work there. I just don't like the idea of some fucking wacko finding out you're my wife and doing harm on you. I worried. A real man who protects his wife. A real man. When a man loves a woman. Right, I'll read chapter 16 tomorrow. It's been real, it's been intense, it's been savage. I even got a bit carried away with fantasies about violence that I would never carry through, people of Earth, because I'm actually a wonderful woman. A wonderful woman. Very few people appreciate that fact. So we'll just handle it, babies. I'm trying to think what my next story will be to read you. I'm a bit sick of the ugly and the gritty and the violent and the triggering and, you know, the savage and the abusive and the concomitant triggering that comes from, you know, our slowly dying planet. So I might read, I'm thinking about reading us. You can put in my comments section in this video if you know, if you think that you'd enjoy that. Some of you that watch my videos that participate, you know, if you wish to, you're under no obligation, because once I decide, I'll read whatever I want. It's on my channel. But I thought instead of all this spooky and dark and kind of maudlin and depressing video stories, I'm thinking I might read The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings or The Silmarillion or, you know, something fantasy. I mean, it's got its own dark stories embedded into those mythologies, but so there will still be a bit of triggering, you know, the Balrog and the giant spider and, you know, all the other awful, the orcs and all, you know, you see, you can't escape. You can't escape evil. It's embedded into our culture everywhere, isn't it? But I was just thinking, you know, I might find something a bit more cheerful and happy-clappy and charming and sweet. And, well, put in the comments section at the bottom of this video if you like the idea of me reading to you The Hobbit, because, you know, I am, after all, a bona fide hobbit, short and big feet and big hands and big attitude, and like my creature comforts and lammas bread. And well, anyway, let me know. Give me a suggestion of what you might like me to read for the next book when we finish this one. We're about halfway through this one, so we've got time to think about it, what you'd like and what mythologies you might like me to read to you about, or what stories. And in the meantime, it's looking like we're going to get rain and cold and misery. So in the meantime, wherever you are, my darlings, in the space-time continuum, stay happy, stay wild, stay free, stay in love with the ones who love you back. Stay out of love with the dirty, treacherous motherfuckers who never loved you but played some sick, fucked up game. Stay righteous. Stay in your own truth. Stay magical. Guard your peace. And how does that fellow says? I'm stealing that from someone else. You know, the one with the amazing hair that comes from Finland? Protect your peace. Protect your peace. And when you can, dance shamanically, wildly. Don't repress yourself, express yourself. Don't harm anybody, but don't let anyone rain on your parade either. Hold your line, be cool till after school, live your best life, be out in nature, Observe the beauty of the trees. It's weird, you know. The trees in my garden are hardly moving, but there's a tree across the road really copping some updraft or something. It's swaying quite dramatically, and yet my trees are all very calm and lucid and peaceful. Sacred space. It's probably the fairies protecting us all here, as they do. So on that note, beautiful people of planet Earth, bye for now. See you tomorrow.